It's Friday, so you know what day it is. It's a training log day. Let's get into it. I'm Carl Ragavan, Europe's original starting strength coach. Let's get into the show. So this week was a little bit different. So for the majority of my training career, I usually do a 3-day routine, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but occurrences and training kind of falls into a 4-day routine. So Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. So that's kind of where I'm at. The issues I've had with moving from a 3-day routine to a 4-day is usually I'm actually doing the same amount of work. It's just I need more focused time to get it done. And I feel like sometimes if I have 3 or more things to do per day, I actually am not as productive and the lifts actually aren't as good performance-wise. So for me personally, and my bias is to try and do as little as possible to get as strong as possible. So for me right now, currently this is now a 4-day routine where I normally do 2 lifts a day, or if I am doing a 3rd lift, it's more like a token single kind of rep. 4 days a week is actually an interesting one. For a lot of people, unfortunately, they have busy lives. Usually for most people, this is my experience, right? For most people, they usually can't commit to 4 days a week unless they have a home gym or they're someone who doesn't have other things happening in their life. If you're not a busy family man or you don't have a 12-hour work day, you might be able to fit in 4 days a week, or if you're just really highly motivated. But for most of you, a 4-day routine is usually too much. And what happens is that person starts slipping, missing workouts, or having to combine workouts because they missed Thursday. So then their Thursday and Friday work has to be all in one, which is really tough. So yeah, from a logistical perspective, it's easier from a programming perspective to do 4-day routines because you really have a lot more time. And if you need extra slots to kind of fit stuff in, it's there. So 4-day routines are great if you can stick to them. But most of you struggled getting in 3 days a week. And I'm not talking about doing 3 days a week for 6 months. I'm talking about 3 days a week for 10 years. So the consistency needs to stack up. So for different reasons, I'm traveling a lot. You have to be more logistically minded with knowing how to fit training in, especially when you have that 4-day a week plan. It's a little bit different than a 3-day. But for me, I actually quite like it. From a lifestyle perspective, I actually think it keeps my food and my sleep and my recovery more consistent because I feel like on training days, I'm probably a little bit better at eating the things I should be eating. My heavy upper body day, so that landed on Thursday, I actually had a really hectic day for me. I know, busy. So I actually had to wake up and do this session kind of early for me. So it was a press day. My focus is on overhead press right now. So I did a heavy press single with 130 kilos. Was a little bit forward. Again, I'm going to blame it on being half asleep. That time of day I just wasn't at my full self. I normally like to have at least 2 meals or at least 1 big solid meal and a ton of coffee. Just waking up and being rushed. I think I might have just done porridge and a protein shake. It's not enough for me. So yeah, the 130 press was okay. Pin press. So there's a couple of ways to run this. And I quite like running it as 1 week high, 1 week low. So, you could label it as like eyebrows to forehead level is like a high pin press. And then nose to mouth is like a low pin press. So for those reasons, and because of my programming, having a heavy week, light week, I programmed high pin press for my heavy day. So it went heavy. So 160 is pretty good for, haven't pin pressed for a minute now. So that was all that was on the docket for Thursday, is just heavy press, heavy pin press. Working up to those numbers and the focus and the amount of effort that it takes at my level, you know, 130 press and then 160 pin press, that was a good day. And the other thing I love about a program like this right now is even though I'm training really hard and the lifts are really heavy, I don't feel as exhausted. Leaving the gym, I actually feel like I could have done another lift or another 2 lifts that day. So going out of the gym feeling kind of fresh and feeling like, oh, I felt like I hit my numbers and what the program said, but I actually felt like there's more left in the tank. All right, so Friday, this is the second part of my heavy day. So clean and jerks, this alternates with snatch, so it's the full clean and jerk. I worked up to a heavy single, which was 120. Actually felt really good. I'm really taking a much more conscious effort of slapping my feet out. I'm a classic example of someone who jumps back when it gets really heavy. And I think honestly, a big problem with that is I'm so focused on the jump, I just let my whole body kind of go with it, as opposed to hit the jump, boom, and then slap my feet, because you don't really want to be, especially at heavy weights, you don't really want to be going back too far because that bar is coming with you. So it basically kind of pushes into your shoulders. It's not just landing straight down. So you don't want those two vectors. So getting the footwork pattern, maybe even practicing the footwork of slapping your feet out from your pulling stance to your squat stance, that can be a really, really good practice drill before you do heavy cleans. So this is kind of where I kind of pussied out for me. So on the program, I was supposed to do 235 kilo squat for 5. By the second rep, I was already doubting myself. I did the third and racked it. So it could have been a number of reasons. I can be a pussy and give you excuses. I just think I didn't think to push hard enough. I was just like, oh, I'm just going to do 2 triples and call it a day. So looking back at the footage, I think I probably could have cranked out a set of 5. It's not PR numbers by any means, but I think some days when you're not 100% like revved up to do a heavy set, or mentally your mindset, you didn't go in kind of attacking the weight, I think sometimes it can catch you off guard and you can get a little bit anxious and scared and doubt yourself, even though you've got the numbers. In that scenario, I probably should have maybe just put my headphones on, put some angry music. I think the squat, more than any lift, really challenges me in training. It's probably the same for most of you, but yeah, heavy squats, it's not that I'm scared. And to be honest, I very rarely miss reps in training in my squat. Like for years, I can probably label like a handful of squats where I've actually had to put it back on the pins. I'm actually quite in tune with knowing where my numbers are or putting it up into the rack. But most of the time, I'm pretty damn consistent. I think, honestly, I was just a pussy and I did 2 triples. But 235, that's not too shabby. And I wasn't mad, but I wasn't overjoyed, if you know what I'm saying. Rack pulls. So I've had some issues with rack pulls because I was in Wales and they had those shitty blocks. I didn't want to fuck up their racks because they were combo racks. They weren't really like a power rack. And if you're familiar with combo racks, they have this little thin lining of plastic. So if I had 300 plus kilos on there, I definitely would have fucked it by putting it down. So rack pulls today, I used a really crappy piece of shit bar. I don't even know what brand it is. It was actually a bit too thick. It's a 32 mil. But I did my 300 kilos for 5 reps on the rack pull. I felt like I needed to redeem myself after my pussy attempt on squat. Felt good. Looking back at the tape, I think I probably could have stood up a little bit higher in my lockouts. I kind of shortchanged myself a little bit, but I'm not too mad at that. My best rack pull was like 320 for 4. So again, still kind of feeling out my numbers, just getting back to challenging weights. It was just nice to do a rack pull from a power rack and not have to do a pussy kind of watered down version or something which is a block pull or isn't really a rack pull. So without further ado, check out these lifts. Enjoy. So if you like this show, comment, like, share, subscribe. You know the business. I'm Carl Raghavan. That was Beautiful Strength. And remember, the barbell never lies.